In August 1977, in the quiet London suburb of Enfield, life changed forever for the Hodgson family. Peggy Hodgson, a single mother of 4, lived with her children in a modest council house at 284 Green Street. One night, strange knocking sounds began to echo through the walls. Peggy dismissed it as her kids' antics or old house noises, but soon the events became impossible to ignore. One evening, Janet and Margaret screamed from their bedroom, claiming their beds were shaking violently. Peggy rushed in and saw something she couldn't explain. A heavy chest of drawers slid across the floor by itself. When she tried to push it back, it wouldn't move, as though an invisible force held it in place. Terrified, Peggy called for her neighbours, Vic and Peggy Nottingham, to help. Vic entered the house and heard the strange knocking sounds himself. He described them as unhuman. Then, marbles and bricks flew across the room, seemingly hurled by an unseen hand. Some hit walls or people but left no marks. Stunned and frightened, the Nottinghams urged Peggy to call the police. 2 officers arrived to investigate. One of them, Carolyn Heaps, witnessed a chair slide across the floor. She documented the incident in her report, noting that she could not explain what she saw. With no evidence of a crime, the police left, offering no solutions. The Hodgsons, however, were left in a house that seemed to grow more hostile with each passing day. The activity worsened. The knocks became louder and more frequent, objects moved violently, and Janet began experiencing terrifying episodes. She would fall into trances, scream uncontrollably, or claim she felt something watching her. Whatever force was haunting the house seemed to focus on her, as though she were its target. As neighbours and friends witnessed the strange phenomena, they too were left speechless. With no idea where to turn, the Hodgsons found themselves at the mercy of an invisible force determined to make its presence known. The strange activity at 284 Green Street soon caught the attention of paranormal investigator Maurice Gross from the Society for Psychical Research. Gross, who had recently suffered the loss of his daughter, was particularly drawn to the case and moved into the Hodgson home to document the events. Shortly after, he was joined by author and investigator Guy Lyon Playfair, and together they began a thorough investigation into what became known as the Enfield Poltergeist. The phenomena escalated once the investigators arrived. Loud knocks echoed through the house. Furniture moved without explanation, and objects flew across rooms as if propelled by unseen hands. The most alarming activity centered around Janet, who exhibited terrifying behavior. She fell into trances, her body contorted unnaturally, and she began speaking in a deep, gravelly voice that no child could produce. Through Janet, the voice identified itself as Bill Wilkins, an elderly man who claimed he had lived and died in the house. "I'm Bill," the voice growled, "and I had a hemorrhage while sitting in my chair downstairs." Investigators were astonished when they confirmed Bill Wilkins had indeed lived in the house and died in the manner described. The media became fascinated with the case. Reporters from the Daily Mirror witnessed objects flying. Photos showed Janet levitating above her bed. Those skeptics argued she was jumping. Janet's condition worsened, claiming she was controlled by an unseen force. Witnesses saw her levitate or be thrown across the room, and the poltergeist seemed to target her. Skeptics accused her of trickery, but Gross and Playfair argued the activity was beyond her capability. For the Hodgsons, the torment was relentless, leaving them exhausted and frightened. By late 1979, after nearly 2 years of relentless activity, the disturbances at 284 Green Street abruptly ceased. Janet Hodgson, the focal point of the poltergeist's torment, claimed she had seen a shadowy figure wave goodbye to her one night before disappearing forever. The Hodgson family, though finally free from the haunting, was left deeply scarred by the ordeal. The investigators, Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair, considered the case one of the most compelling examples of poltergeist activity ever documented. They had collected hours of recordings, photographs, and witness testimonies, but skepticism still surrounded the case. Janet admitted years later that she and the siblings occasionally faked small incidents to test the investigators, but she maintained that the majority of events were genuine. She described the experience as traumatic, with many of the phenomena being entirely beyond her control. The media frenzy eventually died down, but the house remained a subject of fascination. Skeptics pointed to Janet's confessions and photographic evidence of her alleged levitation, arguing that it looked staged. Others criticized the investigators, claiming they were too eager to believe. However, even skeptics struggled to explain the sheer volume of eyewitness accounts and audio evidence. For Janet, the haunting left a permanent mark. She struggled with the attention and later moved away from Enfield. Decades later, she recalled the events with a mix of fear and resignation, insisting that the poltergeist was real and had profoundly affected her family's lives. The Enfield Poltergeist remains one of the most debated cases in paranormal history. Was it a genuine haunting, a cry for attention, or something in between? Whatever the truth, the story of 284 Green Street endures as a chilling tale of the unexplained.